Olivia Hart? The voice came from the end of the emergency corridor at 2. 17 inches the morning, low enough to be calm, cold enough to make every nurse at Mercy General stop moving. Olivia had one hand pressed against the chest wound of a dying man, and the other reaching blindly for gauze when she heard her name. Rain hammered the ambulance bay doors behind her. Red lights flashed across the polished hospital floor like warning signals from another world. Somewhere nearby, a heart monitor screamed. Somewhere farther away, a woman was crying into a vending machine phone. But the entire trauma unit went silent because of the man standing beneath the fluorescent lights. Black wool coat, black shirt, no tie, blood on one cuff that did not look like his, dark hair damp from the storm, a face carved from discipline and violence, eyes that did not search the room because they had already found exactly what they came for, Dante Marcellus. Every newspaper in Boston had printed his name like a curse. Every detective in the city pretended they were not afraid of him. Every criminal with enough sense lowered his voice when speaking of the Marcellus family. He owned restaurants, shipping docks, private security companies, judges, politicians, and streets where police cars drove slower than usual, and he was looking at Olivia like she was the only person alive. "Get out," he said. The room did not move. Then 2 men in black suits stepped behind him, and suddenly everyone understood he had not been speaking to Olivia. Doctors backed away. A resident froze with a syringe in his hand. A security guard at the far door reached for his radio, saw the expression on Dante's face, and decided not to die for hospital policy. Olivia did not move. Her palm stayed pressed against the wounded patient's chest. "He's bleeding out," she said. Dante's gaze dropped to the man on the stretcher. For the first time, Olivia noticed the patient was not just any man. He was young, maybe 24, with a tattoo behind his ear and terror in his eyes. A Marcellus soldier, one of Dante's. "He betrayed me," Dante said quietly. Olivia looked up. "He's still my patient." The words landed hard enough to make one of Dante's men shift his weight. Dante walked toward her. Every step was controlled, not rushed, not dramatic. Worse than that, certain. He moved like the hospital belonged to him, like the storm outside had been ordered by him, like violence itself knew to wait for his permission. He stopped on the opposite side of the stretcher. The wounded man whimpered. "Please," the man gasped. "Boss, please. I didn't know." Dante never looked at him. He looked only at Olivia. "You have blood on your face," he said. It was not tender. Not exactly. But it was the wrong thing for a Mafia boss to notice while one of his own men was dying between them. Olivia swallowed. "Then let me work." The corner of Dante's jaw tightened. Behind him, one of his men said, "Mr. Marcellus, we don't have time. The Romano men followed us here." At that, the lights flickered. Once, twice. Then the emergency doors at the ambulance bay burst inward with a violent crash. Glass exploded across the floor. Nurses screamed. A black SUV screeched sideways outside in the rain, its headlights cutting through the trauma room like searchlights. Men in dark masks flooded through the broken entrance. Olivia heard someone shout. Then the first shot cracked through the air. Dante moved before anyone else could breathe. He seized Olivia by the waist and dragged her behind the steel medication cabinet as bullets tore through the trauma bay. Her back slammed into his chest. One of his arms locked around her ribs, hard and absolute, while his other hand pressed her head down. "Stay low," he said against her ear. "I have patience. You have a pulse," he snapped. "Keep it." The cabinet shook as bullets hit metal. Glass rained over them. Olivia could feel Dante's heartbeat against her back. Not fast, not frightened. Controlled. Terrifyingly controlled. Across the room, the wounded patient screamed. A nurse sobbed under a desk. The hospital alarm began wailing overhead. Olivia tried to twist away, but Dante's grip tightened. "Let me go. If I let you go, you die. If you don't..." He dies. Dante's face lowered close enough that she felt the cold rain on his skin. That man sold my brother to the Romanos. Olivia froze. His eyes were inches from hers now. Dark. Merciless. But beneath the mercilessness, something else moved through him. Something raw and buried. He begged me to trust him, Dante said. I did. My brother came home in a box. Another bullet punched through the cabinet. Olivia flinched. Dante did not. He looked past her, counted the sounds, calculated the room. Then he did something Olivia would never forget. He took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Why are you doing that?" she whispered. "Because they came for me," he said. "Not you." Then he stepped out into gunfire. Olivia saw him in fragments. His black shirt against white hospital light, his hand closing around a fallen guard's weapon, his body turning with precise violence, his face expressionless as chaos unfolded around him. His men surged from the hallway. The masked attackers fired from the shattered ambulance bay. Rain blew into the trauma room, carrying the smell of wet asphalt, smoke, and blood. Dante did not shout. He did not panic. He became silence inside violence. And somehow, through it all, his eyes kept returning to Olivia, as if confirming she was still alive, as if her breathing mattered more than the war exploding around him. When the last masked man fell back through the broken doors and the remaining attackers fled into the storm, the room did not become peaceful. It became ruined. Alarms screamed. Sprinklers hissed. Blood slid across tile. Nurses crawled out from behind counters. Someone yelled for police. Someone else yelled the elevators had been locked down. Dante returned to Olivia with a cut above his brow and rainwater dripping from his hair. "You're shaking," he said. "I'm furious." "Good. That means you're alive." She shoved his coat off her shoulders and pushed past him to the wounded patient. Dante caught her wrist. Olivia looked down at his hand, then back at his face. "Let go." For 1 second, every person in the room seemed to stop again. No one told Dante Marcellus to let go. No one spoke to him like he was merely a man. But Olivia did. And Dante, after a moment that felt like a blade hovering above skin, released her. She went to the stretcher, pressed fresh gauze into the wound, and barked orders at the stunned resident. 2 units, O negative. Call surgery. Move." The resident blinked. "But he's a patient," Olivia snapped. "Move." Dante stood behind her, watching. The wounded man looked at Olivia with tears in his eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," she said, cutting his shirt open. "Just survive long enough to regret your choices." A faint sound came from behind her. Dante Marcellus had almost laughed. Almost. The police arrived 12 minutes later. By then the attackers were gone. The Marcellus men had vanished through back corridors, and Dante stood in the ruined trauma bay like a king in enemy territory. 2 detectives entered first. One was old enough to be tired, the other young enough to still believe the city had rules. "Marcellus," the older one said, "you want to explain why half the ER looks like a war zone." Dante did not answer. Olivia was washing blood from her hands at the sink, though no amount of water seemed enough. Her fingers trembled. She hated that they trembled. The younger detective looked at her. "Nurse Hart, did Mr. Marcellus threaten you?" Before she could answer, Dante said, "She saved lives." The detective glanced at him. "I asked her, and I answered." Olivia turned off the faucet. Dante looked at her then, and for the first time that night, she saw something behind his control. Not fear, not guilt. Recognition. Like he had known her before she had known him. The older detective watched them both too carefully. "Nurse Hart," he said, "do you know this man?" Olivia opened her mouth. No. That was the obvious answer, the safe answer. The answer any normal nurse would give when standing between a detective and Boston's most feared mafia boss. but her eyes moved to Dante's cuff, where rainwater had diluted blood into the seam of his sleeve, then to the way he stood slightly between her and the shattered ambulance doors. Even now, even with police in the room, "I know what everyone knows," she said. The younger detective looked disappointed. Dante's expression did not change, but something in his shoulders eased by a fraction. The questioning lasted 20 minutes. Olivia told the truth where she could, and nothing where truth felt like a door to worse danger. She did not mention Dante wrapping his coat around her. She did not mention his hand on her head, his voice in her ear, the way he had watched her like she was a secret he had spent years protecting. When the detectives finally left, the ER began its exhausted return to function. Maintenance taped plastic over broken glass. Orderlies mopped blood from tile. A surgeon came down to take the wounded traitor upstairs. Olivia stood alone near the ambulance bay, staring out at the rain. Dante came beside her without sound. "You should go home," he said. She did not look at him. "My shift ends at 7. Your shift ended when men opened fire 20 feet from you. Hospital administration will be thrilled to learn that from you. You're angry because I touched you. I'm angry because you brought a Mafia execution into my ER. His eyes moved to her profile. "It was not an execution. Could have fooled me. If I wanted him dead, he would have been dead before he reached your doors." Olivia turned to him. "Is that supposed to make me feel better?" "No." "Then why say it?" "Because you prefer ugly truth to pretty lies." She hated that he said it like he knew her. She hated even more that he was right. The storm reflected in his eyes. Cold blue light from the ambulance bay traced the sharp edges of his face. Up close, he was younger than the headlines made him seem, maybe 37, but the weight in him was old. Not weakness, not sorrow exactly, something heavier. A man who had buried too much and built his soul around the graves. "How do you know my name?" she asked. Dante was quiet. Then he reached into the inside pocket of his ruined coat and pulled out a folded paper. Olivia stared at it. It was not a business card, not a threat, not money. It was a hospital billing notice. Her name was printed at the top. Olivia Hart. Outstanding balance. $186,420. Her breath disappeared. That bill was 2 years old. It belonged to a life she did not talk about. Her mother's cancer treatments, the private specialist, the failed clinical trial, the debt that had nearly swallowed Olivia whole after the funeral. She had paid what she could, worked double shifts, sold her car, moved into a tiny apartment above a closed laundromat, skipped meals, ignored collection calls until they stopped. And then, 2 years ago, the debt vanished. No explanation, no letter, no mistake anyone would admit to. Just gone. Olivia looked from the paper to Dante. Her voice came out thin. "Where did you get that?" Dante folded it again. "From the man who sold the debt." Her stomach dropped. "No." "Yes." "You paid it?" His silence was the answer. The entire storm seemed to move inside her chest. For 2 years, she had imagined clerical errors, charity funds, anonymous hospital programs, divine mercy, anything except this, anything except him. Dante Marcellus had secretly paid Olivia Hart's debt. For 2 years, she had been free because of a man who terrified Boston. "Why?" she whispered. His face closed. "Go home, Olivia." "No, you don't get to do that." She stepped closer, fear drowned by fury. "You don't get to walk into my hospital, start a war, save my life, tell me you paid a debt that nearly destroyed me, and then order me to go home like I'm one of your men." A nurse at the station looked over, then quickly looked away. Dante's gaze lowered to Olivia's mouth, for the smallest fraction of a second before returning to her eyes. "You want answers tonight?" he asked. "Yes. Then you'll hate me by morning." "I'm already halfway there." Something like pain flickered across his face. It was gone, immediately. "Not enough," he said. Then he turned and walked away. Olivia should have let him. Instead, at 7:12 inches the morning, after 12 hours of blood, shattered glass, police questions, and a secret too large to breathe around, she stepped into the grey dawn outside Mercy General and found Dante Marcellus waiting beside a black SUV. Steam rose from the wet pavement. The city looked bruised. His men stood nearby, silent and watchful, black coats moving in the cold wind. Olivia stopped on the curb. "No," she said. Dante opened the back door. "Your apartment is not safe. You don't know where I live. I know the lock sticks in winter. I know the third stair creaks. I know the woman downstairs smokes at midnight and leaves her window open. I know your neighbor's son steals packages and feels guilty afterward." Her blood went cold. "You've been watching me." "Yes." The word did not come with apology. Olivia took a step back. "You are insane." "I am careful." "You had no right." "No." The honesty struck harder than denial would have. Dante's voice lowered. "But you were marked the night your mother died. My mother has nothing to do with this. She has everything to do with this." Olivia stared at him. Dawn traffic hissed along the street behind her. Nurses changed shifts under the hospital awning. Somewhere in the city, people bought coffee and walked dogs and lived inside ordinary problems. But Olivia's world had narrowed to one man, one black SUV, one impossible sentence. "What does that mean?" she asked. Dante looked at his driver, then back at her. "It means the people who came to the ER last night weren't only following me. The air left her lungs slowly. They were looking for you." Olivia wanted to laugh, wanted to reject it, wanted to say nurses did not get hunted by Mafia enemies unless they did something reckless like fall in love with monsters. But Dante was not smiling, and men like Dante did not waste fear. "Get in," he said. "No, Olivia, my name does not belong in your mouth." His eyes darkened. For 1 second she thought he might force her. He looked capable of it. He looked like a man whose patience had been buried beside his brother. Instead, he stepped closer and took something from his coat pocket. A photograph. Olivia did not want to look. She looked, anyway. It showed her apartment door, taken last night. A red symbol had been painted across the wood, a circle split by a diagonal line. Below it, in black letters, were 3 words: "Debt comes due." Olivia's knees nearly gave out. Dante's hand closed around her elbow before she fell. Firm, immediate, warm despite the cold. She looked up at him with horror spreading through her chest. "What debt?" she whispered. His face turned merciless, but not toward her. "Not yours," he said. "Your mother's." The inside of the SUV smelled like leather, rain, and danger. Olivia sat by the window with Dante's coat around her again, because she had forgotten to refuse it this time. The city moved past in grey streaks. Brick buildings, wet sidewalks, coffee shops opening under striped awnings. Boston pretending it had not spent the night bleeding. Dante sat beside her, not touching her, but close enough that she felt his presence like heat from a fire she had been warned not to approach. Across from them sat a man in his 50s, with silver hair and scarred knuckles. Dante introduced him only as Ezra. Ezra held a tablet. "Your apartment was breached at 3:41 a.m., he said. 2 men. Professional. No theft. They searched your bedroom, kitchen ceiling, bathroom vent, and the back of your closet." Olivia's throat tightened. "For what?" Ezra glanced at Dante. Dante said, "A ledger." "I don't have a ledger." "No," Dante said. "Your mother did." Olivia looked out the window so neither of them would see her expression break. Her mother, Evelyn Hart, had been gentle hands, lavender soap, old jazz on Sunday mornings, and a laugh that survived until chemo stole her breath. She had been a school secretary. A woman who mailed birthday cards early. A woman who worried if Olivia worked too much. A woman who cried during dog commercials. Not a woman with a ledger that got apartments marked by Mafia symbols. "You're wrong," Olivia said. Dante did not argue. "I wish I were." The SUV turned through Beacon Hill, then toward the harbour, where luxury buildings rose behind iron gates and private security cameras. Olivia turned back to him. "Why pay my debt?" Dante looked out the opposite window. For a long time he said nothing. Then, "Because your mother saved my life." Olivia blinked. "What?" Dante's jaw flexed. 15 years ago, before people called me anything worth fearing, I was 19 and stupid. My father had enemies. One of them put a knife between my ribs in an alley behind a church in South Boston. I should have died there. He paused. "Your mother found me." Olivia's mind struggled to form the image. Her gentle mother in an alley, rain falling, a wounded boy bleeding against brick. "She called an ambulance?" Olivia asked. "No. She knew they would finish me at the hospital. She dragged me into the church basement, stitched me with a sewing kit, fed me soup for 3 days, lied to men with guns when they came asking." Olivia stared at him. "She never told me. She promised she wouldn't." "Why would she help you?" For the first time, Dante looked directly at her. "Because she said boys do not deserve to die for their father's sins." The sentence hit Olivia somewhere beneath the ribs. That sounded like her mother, terribly, painfully like her. Dante's voice softened, but only slightly. "Years later, when she got sick, she refused my money, refused my doctors, refused protection. She said kindness does not become debt." Olivia's eyes burned. "She died owing hospitals and specialists money," Dante said. "So I bought the debt, quietly. Why not tell me?" "Because she asked me not to bring my world to your door." Olivia let out a bitter breath. "That worked well." Dante accepted the cut without flinching. Outside, iron gates opened. The SUV entered a private underground garage beneath a glass tower overlooking the harbour. Olivia looked around as the vehicle slowed. "Where are we?" "My home." "I'm not staying in your home." "Yes, you are." She turned sharply. "You can't order me around because you paid a bill I never asked you to pay." Dante leaned closer, and the air changed. "I am not asking because I enjoy your gratitude," he said softly. "I am telling you because last night someone marked your door, breached your apartment, and attacked the hospital where you work. You can hate me from behind bulletproof glass." The SUV stopped. Olivia held his gaze. "And if I walk out?" His eyes dropped, briefly, to the trembling pulse in her throat. "Then I walk behind you." The penthouse was not a home. It was a fortress, dressed as wealth. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the harbour and the storm-dark city beyond. Black marble floors reflected cold blue light. A grand piano sat, untouched, near a wall of glass. There were no family photographs. No clutter, no softness, just expensive silence and the faint scent of cedar, smoke, and something metallic beneath it. Olivia stood in the center of the living room, feeling like a patient misplaced in a museum. Dante spoke to Ezra near the entrance. "Double the men at the garage. No staff movement without clearance. I want Romano channels monitored. Find the leak from Mercy General." Ezra nodded. "And the nurse?" Olivia folded her arms. "The nurse is standing right here." Ezra looked almost amused. Did not. "The nurse sleeps," he said. Olivia laughed once, coldly. "The nurse drinks coffee, showers, and goes back to work. You're suspended for 48 hours pending incident review." She stared at him. "How do you know that?" "Because I own the company that insures your hospital." Olivia closed her eyes. Of course he did. Of course the man did not simply enter lives. He owned the ceilings above them. She opened her eyes. "You are not my protector." "No," Dante said. "I'm the reason you need one." That silenced her. He looked away first, as if the admission cost him something. A woman entered then, carrying folded clothes. She was tall, elegant, with dark skin, silver braids, and the calm authority of someone who had seen rich men ruin everything and survived anyway. "This is Mara," Dante said. "She runs the house." Mara gave Olivia a warm, assessing look. "There's a guest room prepared. Clothes in your size. Bathroom through the left door. Coffee in 10 minutes, unless you prefer tea." Olivia blinked. Coffee. Thank you." Mara nodded, then looked at Dante with the smallest edge of disapproval. "She needs food, too." Dante's expression did not change. "Then feed her." Mara arched an eyebrow. "Ask like a civilized man." Silence. Olivia looked between them, stunned. Dante Marcellus, feared by an entire city, exhaled through his nose. "Please," he said. Mara smiled faintly. "See? Not fatal." For the first time since the night began, Olivia almost smiled. Dante saw it. That was the danger. Not the guns, not the black SUVs, not the debt or the bloody hospital floor. The danger was that Dante Marcellus saw the almost smile and looked at it like a starving man watching a match strike in the dark. Olivia turned away quickly. The guest room was larger than her entire apartment. White sheets, grey walls. A view of rain smearing the harbour into silver. In the bathroom she found clothes folded with unnerving precision. Soft black sweatpants, a cream sweater, socks still wrapped in paper. She showered until the water ran cold. Blood spiraled down the drain. Not all of it was hers. Most of it was not. When she stepped out, wrapped in a towel, she stared at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. 29 years old. Nurse. Orphan. Debt-free because of a criminal. Hunted because of a mother who had apparently saved that criminal when he was a boy. Olivia pressed both hands to the sink. "What did you do, Mom?" she whispered. A knock came at the bedroom door. She dressed before opening it. Dante stood outside, holding a tray. Not a servant. Not Mara. Dante himself. Coffee. Toast. Eggs. Cut fruit. A small bowl of soup. Olivia stared at him. "Do Mafia bosses usually deliver breakfast?" "No." "Am I supposed to be honored?" "You're supposed to eat. I don't take orders well." "I noticed." He stepped inside only when she moved back. The courtesy irritated her because she had not expected it from him. He set the tray on a small table near the window. Olivia watched him. "How long have you known about me?" Dante's hand paused on the coffee cup. "Since your mother got sick." "That was 3 years ago." "Yes. You watched me for 3 years. I made sure you were safe." "That's not the same thing." "No," he said. "It isn't." The honesty again. Always the honesty. Ugly and steady. Olivia crossed the room. "Did you read my mail too?" "When necessary." "My medical records?" "No." "My phone?" Dante looked at her then. "No." "Why draw the line there?" "Because I wanted to." The answer was so arrogant, she nearly threw the coffee at him. But his eyes were not arrogant. They were tired. She looked down at the tray. Her stomach hurt with hunger and anger. "Why did they wait until now?" she asked. "If my mother had this ledger, if people wanted it, why come after me now?" Dante looked toward the harbor. "Because last week, a man named Silas Romano was released from prison." Olivia knew the name. Everyone in Boston knew the Romano family. Older money, older cruelty. The kind of men who smiled in church and ordered bodies into water after dinner. "Silas believes your mother hid evidence that could destroy him," Dante said. "Names, payment routes, judges, shipments, murders. My mother was a school secretary. She also volunteered at St. Agnes Church." "Yes." St. Agnes was where my father and Silas Romano laundered money through charity accounts 15 years ago. Olivia sank slowly onto the edge of the bed. Dante continued, voice controlled. Your mother discovered it. She copied records. She hid them. When she found me bleeding behind the church, she realized I was connected to the same world. Olivia's throat tightened. So she helped you because she thought I might become different. The way he said it made Olivia look up. Did you? She asked. Dante smiled without humor. No. The rain thickened against the windows. Olivia should have been afraid of him. She was. But fear was no longer simple. It had become tangled with grief, curiosity, anger, and a strange ache she did not want to name. My mother trusted you, Olivia said. Dante's face hardened. She shouldn't have. Before Olivia could respond, Ezra entered without knocking. Dante turned immediately. Ezra's expression was grim. We found the leak. Who? Dr. Caleb Foss. Olivia stood so fast the tray rattled. No, Caleb works oncology. He was my mother's doctor. Dante looked at her sharply. You know him? He helped us. He got her into the trial. He came to her funeral. Ezra's gaze moved from Dante to Olivia. He accessed old storage records at Mercy General 3 days ago. Same night, Romano men started moving. Olivia shook her head. No, Caleb wouldn't. Dante's phone vibrated. He looked at the screen. The room changed around him. His expression went still in a way that made Olivia's skin prickle. What? She asked. Dante turned the phone toward her. A photo filled the screen. Her apartment bedroom. Her mother's old cedar box sat open on Olivia's bed. Inside it, where Olivia had kept funeral programs and a lavender scarf, someone had placed a fresh white rose. Under the rose was a note. Tell Olivia to come home. Alone. Olivia forgot how to breathe. Dante took the phone back slowly. No, he said. She looked at him. You don't decide. I decide this. It's my mother's things. It's a trap, obviously. And you still want to go. I need to know what they found. Dante stepped closer. They found bait. Olivia's voice broke. That box was all I had left of her. The anger left his face. For a moment, something unguarded moved in him. Something devastatingly human. I know, he said. Olivia stared. He looked down, then reached into his pocket and removed a small object wrapped in a handkerchief. When he unfolded it, Olivia saw a silver locket. Her mother's locket, the one Evelyn Hart had worn every day until the hospital removed it before her final procedure. Olivia had searched for it after the funeral and never found it. Her hand flew to her mouth. Where did you get that? Dante held it out. She gave it to me the last time I saw her. Olivia took it with shaking fingers. Inside was a tiny photograph of Olivia as a child, missing a front tooth and grinning in a yellow raincoat. On the other side, folded behind the glass, was a sliver of paper. Olivia looked at Dante. He nodded once. She opened it. The handwriting was her mother's. If Olivia is ever in danger, Dante, do not let the wolves use her kindness against her. Olivia's eyes filled so fast she could not stop it. Dante watched her silently, but there was something in his gaze that looked like punishment. Not of her, of himself. She asked you to protect me, Olivia whispered. Yes, and you paid my debt because of her. At first, the words slipped out before he could bury them. Olivia looked up. At first, she repeated. Dante's face closed again. Too late. The air between them tightened. Dante. He looked at her, as if her saying his name had hurt him. At first, he said slowly, I protected you because Evelyn asked me to. And after? He did not answer, but Olivia understood before he spoke. After, he had watched her leave work exhausted, watched her sit alone in diners at midnight, watched her carry groceries in the rain, watched her fall asleep on buses after double shifts. watched her survive grief without applause. After duty had become obsession, after a promise to her mother had become something darker, more dangerous, more intimate, Olivia stepped back. You don't love someone by surveilling them. Dante's eyes sharpened. I never said love. No. Men like you probably call it protection, so you don't have to admit when it becomes possession. That hit him. Good, she thought. Let it. His voice lowered. If I wanted to possess you, Olivia, you would know. She hated the heat that moved through her at the words. Hated the way danger could sound like confession when spoken softly enough. Then what do you want? She asked. For one breath, Dante looked like he might tell the truth. Then Ezra's phone rang. He answered, listened, and turned pale. Boss, he said. Mercy General just lost power. Dante's head turned. Ezra continued. Backup generators failed. ICU is down. Someone triggered lockdown. Olivia grabbed her shoes. Dante's voice cut through the room. No, she did not stop. I work there. You are the target, and my patients are trapped in the dark. He moved into her path. She looked up at him, eyes wet and furious. My mother saved you because she believed boys don't deserve to die for their father's sins. Don't ask me to become someone who lets innocent people die because dangerous men want me. Dante stared at her, and for the first time, Olivia saw him lose. Not to an enemy, to her. The ride back to Mercy General was a storm inside a storm. 3 black SUVs cut through flooded streets, while Ezra barked updates from the front seat. Traffic lights were out in several blocks. Police scanners screamed about hospital lockdown, possible hostages, unknown armed presence, and generator sabotage. Dante sat beside Olivia with one hand braced on the door, and the other holding a phone to his ear. No visible weapons inside pediatric or ICU, he said. I don't care what it costs. Clear the south stairwell. Keep police away from the east entrance until my people identify the shooters. Olivia stared at him. You can't order police away from a hospital. Dante ended the call. I can if I know which cops Romano owns. She had no answer to that. When Mercy General came into view, Olivia's heart dropped. The entire hospital was dark except for emergency strobes flashing red against rain-soaked windows. Patients crowded near upper-floor glass. Ambulances jammed the bay. Police cruisers blocked the street, their blue lights spinning through water and smoke. A helicopter circled low overhead. The SUV did not stop at the front. It swung into a side alley behind the hospital where a service door stood half open. Olivia recognized the entrance used for linen deliveries. Dante looked at her. Stay behind me. No. Olivia, I know the hospital. You know the war. We both stay useful. For a moment, he looked like he hated that she made sense. Then, he nodded once. They entered through the service corridor with Ezra and 4 Marcellus men behind them. The hospital smelled wrong in the dark. No antiseptic brightness, no constant mechanical hum, just damp air, overheated wires, distant crying, and the thin electronic beeping of failing battery monitors. Olivia's shoes squeaked against the floor. A nurse rounded the corner with a flashlight and nearly screamed. Olivia? Jenna. Olivia caught her shoulders. Where are critical patients? ICU is running on portable batteries. Pediatrics is panicking. Elevators are dead. Security says men with guns entered through radiology. Jenna's eyes flicked to Dante and widened. Olivia squeezed her arms. Look at me. Is Dr. Voss here? Jenna swallowed. He came in 10 minutes before the blackout, said he was checking oncology storage. Dante's face hardened. Olivia felt something inside her crack. Caleb, the man who had held her mother's hand. The man who had told Olivia he was sorry, truly sorry. The man who had helped sign death forms and insurance appeals. Dante touched Olivia's back lightly, not pushing, just grounding. We find him, he said. They moved through the darkened hospital together. It should have been absurd. A nurse in borrowed clothes and a Mafia boss with blood on his sleeve navigating emergency corridors under red strobes. But in the chaos, they became something frighteningly effective. Olivia knew which stairwells bypassed security doors. Dante knew how men moved when they meant harm. Olivia could silence a panicked child with a hand on his forehead. Dante could silence grown men with a glance. On the third floor, they found pediatrics lit by flashlights and phone screens. Children cried beneath cartoon murals. Parents demanded answers no one had. Nurses manually ventilated 2 patients whose machines had failed. Olivia ran forward immediately. "I need ambu bags and battery packs," she called. "Move the non-critical kids into the playroom. Keep them together. Jenna, find blankets. Nobody stands near windows." Dante stayed by the doorway, watching the hallway. A little girl with a pink cast stared at him. "Are you Batman?" she asked. The room went quiet for half a second. Dante looked at her. "No," he said. The little girl considered. "You look like sad Batman." Olivia, despite everything, almost choked. Dante blinked once. Then, very seriously, he said, "That is worse." The little girl smiled. It changed something in the room. Just enough. Fear loosened. Parents breathed. Nurses moved. Olivia glanced at Dante. He looked away quickly, as if being caught gentle was more dangerous than bullets. Then his earpiece crackled. He listened, eyes narrowing. "Radiology," he said. 2 men, 1 doctor." Olivia stood. "Caleb." Dante blocked her with a hand. She looked down at it. He removed it before she could speak. "With me, not ahead." They found radiology colder than the rest of the hospital. The emergency lights barely reached the far end of the corridor. MRI rooms sat silent behind dark glass. A wheelchair lay overturned near the nurse's station. Olivia heard voices behind the records room door. One of Dante's men moved forward. Dante stopped him. He looked at Olivia. "Stay here." "No, this is not a patient room. And Caleb knows me. If you go in first, he may run or shoot or destroy whatever he came for." Dante's expression turned lethal at the word shoot. Olivia stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I'm not fragile." "I know," he said. "That is one of the problems." Before she could process that, he positioned himself beside the door, gun low, hidden by his coat. Olivia pushed the records room door open. Dr. Caleb Voss stood near a metal cabinet with a flashlight between his teeth, stuffing old files into a leather satchel. His blonde hair was disheveled. His lab coat was soaked with rain. Beside him stood 2 armed men Olivia did not recognize. Caleb Froze. Olivia. His voice broke with something like relief. Or guilt. Olivia stepped inside. "Tell me this isn't what it looks like." Caleb removed the flashlight from his mouth. "You shouldn't be here." I could say the same. One of the armed men lifted his weapon. Dante appeared behind Olivia like a shadow becoming a man. The weapon lowered immediately. "Dr. Voss," Dante said. "You have something that belongs to the dead." Caleb's face drained. "Dante Marcellus," he whispered. The second armed man went for his gun. Dante shot him in the shoulder before the man cleared leather. Olivia flinched as the gunshot cracked inside the small room. The man hit the floor screaming. Dante's weapon shifted to the first man before anyone else breathed. "Drop it," Dante said. The first man dropped his gun. Olivia moved automatically toward the wounded man. Dante's arm caught her waist. "No, he's bleeding. He'll live. You don't know that." I aimed. She shot him a furious look, but stayed still because Caleb was shaking now, and the satchel in his hand was stuffed with files bearing her mother's name. "Why?" Olivia asked. Caleb's eyes filled. "I tried to keep you out of it. You broke into my apartment." "I didn't. Romano's men did. I told them not to touch you." Olivia laughed. a broken sound. How generous. Caleb looked at Dante. You don't understand. Silas has my daughter. The room shifted. Olivia's anger stumbled. Dante's did not. How old? 6. Caleb's voice cracked. He took her from school yesterday. Said if I didn't find Evelyn's ledger, he'd send pieces of her back to me. Olivia closed her eyes. The world was never simple. That was the cruelty of it. Betrayal rarely arrived wearing a villain's face. Sometimes it arrived in the face of a desperate father. Caleb held out the satchel with shaking hands. I found storage records. Evelyn moved something from oncology archives before she died. A sealed envelope. I don't know where it is. I swear. Dante stepped forward and took the satchel. Caleb looked at Olivia. Your mother knew. She knew they'd come someday. She said if anything happened, you'd know where she hid the truth. Olivia shook her head. I don't. Yes, Caleb whispered. You do. She said you always remembered songs. Songs. The word entered Olivia like a key turning. For a second, she was not in radiology. She was 7 years old, sitting on her mother's kitchen floor while Evelyn hummed old jazz and baked cinnamon bread. She was 12, rolling her eyes while her mother sang the same lines cleaning dishes. She was 26, sitting beside a hospital bed as her mother, bald and fading, whispered through cracked lips, "When the saints go marching in, Livy, remember where the saints go." Olivia's eyes opened. St. Agnes, she whispered. Dante looked at her. She hid it at St. Agnes Church. Caleb sagged with relief and horror. Then, the hospital intercom screeched. Static burst overhead. A man's voice filled the dark halls. Olivia Hart. Every person in the room froze. The voice was old, smooth, amused. Silas Romano. I know you're in the hospital, sweetheart. Your mother caused me 15 years of inconvenience. Come to the chapel in 10 minutes, or the children on the 3rd floor start dying when my men cut the oxygen lines. Olivia's blood turned to ice. The intercom clicked off. Dante turned toward the door. His face was no longer controlled. It was murderous. Olivia grabbed his arm. No. He looked at her as if he could barely see through rage. He threatened children, he said. And he wants you angry. He succeeded. If you storm in, people die. Dante's hand tightened around the gun. Olivia stepped in front of him. Look at me. He did not. Dante, look at me. His eyes snapped to hers. There, beneath the violence, she saw it clearly for the first time. Fear, not for himself, not even of death. Fear of failing her. Fear of losing another person Evelyn Hart had asked him to protect. Fear that his world would devour the only soft thing he had allowed himself to care about. Olivia touched his wrist. It was reckless, intimate, necessary. You said they came for me, she whispered. Then let me be bait with a plan. No, don't you? No. If we don't control the moment, Silas controls it. His jaw worked. I will not use you as bait. You already did by keeping secrets. That hit deep enough to make him go still. Olivia softened her voice, though her hands were shaking. My mother trusted both of us. You with protection, me with the truth. Let me do my part. Dante looked at her for a long moment. Then he leaned closer. So close his forehead almost touched hers. If he touches you, he said, voice almost soundless, I will burn this city down to the bones. Olivia should have recoiled. Instead, she whispered, then make sure he doesn't. The hospital chapel sat on the 2nd floor near the old wing, a small room with stained glass windows and pale wooden pews. Emergency candles flickered along the altar because the power was still out. Rain tapped softly against the colored glass, turning saints into blurred shadows. Olivia entered alone, or almost alone. Dante was in the walls around her. His men were in the stairwells. Ezra was cutting camera feeds. Jenna was guarding pediatrics with 2 off-duty cops Dante claimed were clean. Caleb had been dragged to a secure room to help track Romano communications while bleeding guilt into his hands. But in the chapel, Olivia stood by herself. Silas Romano waited in the front pew. He was older than she expected, with silver hair, a tailored navy coat, and the polished warmth of a grandfather who poisoned inheritance dinners. 2 men stood behind him. A third held a phone displaying live footage of the pediatric oxygen control room. Silas Smeedle, Evelyn Hart's daughter, he said. You have her eyes. Olivia's stomach turned. Don't say my mother's name. I said it many times while asking her politely to return what she stole. She didn't steal your crimes. Silas laughed softly. There she is. Olivia kept her hands visible. Dante had put a small earpiece beneath her hair. His voice had been silent since she entered, but she knew he was listening. Silas gestured to the pew. Sit. No? His smile widened. Brave. Nurses always confuse proximity to death with immunity from it. Olivia looked at the phone screen. Children's oxygen lines. A masked man near the valves. What do you want? The ledger. I don't have it, but you know where it is. Olivia said nothing. Silas leaned forward. Dante has told you touching stories, I'm sure. About your sainted mother. About debts paid in secret. About promises. Men like Dante love promises because they make obsessions. The words struck too close. Silas saw it. Ah, he murmured. You know. Olivia steadied herself. Know what? That Dante Marcellus did not simply pay your debt. Her pulse changed. Silas sat back. He bought the collection agency, then the clinic, then the apartment building where you lived, then the security company that installed cameras across your block. For 2 years, he did not protect you from the darkness, Miss Hart. He built a darkness around you and called it safety. Dante's voice finally came through the earpiece, low and tense. Do not listen to him. Silas smiled as if he heard it too. Olivia's face stayed still, but inside, something tore. She had known Dante watched. She had not known the scale, not the ownership, not how fully her life had been surrounded. Silas stood. Ask yourself why he never came to you, why he stayed in shadows, why he waited until my men forced him into the light. Olivia's throat tightened. Silas stepped closer, because men like Dante do not love. They acquire. They preserve. They lock beautiful things away so the world cannot take them. Your mother knew it. That is why she kept the ledger from him too. Olivia whispered, You're lying. Ami? A long silence. Then Dante's voice came again. Quieter. Olivia. It was not a command this time. It was a plea. Silas extended his hand. Tell me where the ledger is. And the children keep breathing. Olivia looked at the phone screen. Then at Silas. St. Agnes, she said. Dante's voice sharpened. Olivia, no. Silas's smile bloomed. But, Olivia continued, you'll need me. My mother hid things behind songs. I'm the only one who knows which one. Silas studied her, amused and impressed. Your mother did raise a clever girl. Don't talk about her. Silas nodded to his men. Bring her. The man on Olivia's left moved. He had barely touched her arm when the chapel windows exploded inward. Dante came through the side entrance with silent, devastating force. Smoke filled the chapel. One Romano man dropped before he fired. Another slammed into a pew. Candles scattered. Olivia dove behind the altar as gunfire ripped through stained glass. Silas grabbed her from behind. Cold metal pressed to her throat. Dante! Silas shouted. The gunfire stopped. Smoke drifted through candlelight. Dante stood in the center aisle with a gun in his hand and death in his eyes. Silas held Olivia against him. One wrong breath, and the blade at her throat would open her. Dante's face changed. Not fearlessness now. Fear. Pure, brutal fear. Put it down, Silas said. Dante did. The gun hit the floor. Olivia's heart broke at the sound. "Kick it away." Dante kicked it. Silas smiled against Olivia's hair. "There he is, the great Dante Marcellus brought to heel by a nurse." Olivia could feel the blade shaking slightly. Silas was older, but not weak. His breath smelled like mint. Dante's eyes never left her. "I'm sorry," he said. Olivia did not know whether he meant the chapel, the debt, the surveillance, the 2 years, the secrets, or the fact that loving her had made him vulnerable in front of his enemies. Maybe all of it. Silas dragged her backward toward the side exit. "St. Agnes. Now, if anyone follows, the girl bleeds, and the children suffocate." Dante did not move. Olivia looked at him over Silas's arm, and though terror clawed through her, she did one thing. She tapped 2 fingers against her thigh. Once, twice. Pause. Once. The rhythm her mother used to tap during their song. Dante saw it. His eyes sharpened. He understood. Silas forced Olivia into a waiting car behind the hospital. The ride to St. Agnes took 14 minutes. Olivia counted every turn, every stop, every breath. Silas sat beside her. One man drove. Another sat in the passenger seat with a gun. Her phone was gone. Her earpiece crushed under Silas's shoe. Rain battered the windshield so hard the city became streaks of light. "You're calm," Silas said. "I work emergency medicine. You think that prepares you for monsters?" Olivia looked at him. "No, but it teaches you monsters bleed." Silas laughed. St. Agnes Church rose from the storm at the edge of South Boston, old brick blackened by rain, bell tower cutting into the low clouds. Its windows were dark. The charity office had closed years ago. The basement, Olivia remembered, had once smelled like dust, candle wax, and canned soup. Her mother had brought her here as a child. "Remember where the saints go." Silas pushed her through a side door. Inside, the church groaned with storm wind. Pews sat beneath white sheets. Candles had long since burned out. The air was cold enough to show breath. "Where?" Silas asked. Olivia walked slowly down the aisle. Her eyes moved over statues, old plaques, hymn boards, stained glass. Saints go marching. She looked toward the front. A wooden statue of Saint Cecilia stood near the choir loft, patron saint of music. Olivia remembered her mother tapping the rhythm while looking not at the altar, but upward. "The choir loft," Olivia said. They climbed narrow stairs. Silas's men searched with flashlights while Olivia stood beneath cracked plaster angels. Her heart hammered. Dante would come. She knew it with the same certainty she knew blood pressure by touch. But she also knew he would not come through the front like a fool. Her mother had hidden a boy in this church basement 15 years ago. There had to be another way in. "Here," one man said. Behind a loose wooden panel near the organ pipes was a metal box wrapped in oilcloth. Silas took it like a holy relic. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was not a ledger. It was a stack of copied documents, a flash drive sealed in plastic, and a cassette tape labeled in Evelyn Hart's handwriting. "For Olivia." Silas's expression darkened. Olivia's chest squeezed. "For here." Her mother had left something for her. Silas pocketed the flash drive and documents, then lifted the tape. "How sentimental. Give it to me." He smiled. "No." The church bell rang. Once, everyone froze. St. Agnes had no working bell. It had been disconnected years ago. Then the floor beneath them shook. A muffled explosion sounded below, not large enough to destroy, but enough to plunge the church into chaos. Smoke rolled up from the stairwell. Silas cursed. His men raised weapons. Dante's voice came from below. "Silas." One word. The old church seemed to hold its breath. Silas grabbed Olivia again and dragged her toward the loft railing. Dante emerged from the smoke, at the base of the stairs. Not alone. His men moved like shadows behind pillars. Ezra appeared near the side aisle. Even Caleb Voss, pale and bandaged, stood at the rear with a gun trembling in both hands, desperation making him brave. Silas pressed his gun to Olivia's side. Dante stopped. Rainwater dripped from his coat onto the church floor. "This ends tonight," Dante said. Silas laughed. "You think this ends because you walked into a church like some tragic angel?" "No." Dante's eyes moved to Olivia. "It ends because Evelyn Hart was smarter than all of us." Olivia's breath caught. Dante looked up at the choir loft, past Silas, toward the organ pipes. Olivia followed his gaze. The old organ. Her mother's song. Saints Go Marching. Olivia turned slightly, just enough to see the paper music rolls stacked beside the organ bench. One of them was marked with a faded strip of yellow tape. Yellow like her childhood raincoat in the locket. She understood. The box was bait. The real ledger was in the music roll. Silas noticed her eyes shift. His smile vanished. Before he could turn, Olivia drove her heel down onto his foot and slammed her elbow backward into his ribs. Pain tore through her side as the gun went off, the bullet striking wood inches from her. She twisted free. Silas lunged. Dante moved. The next seconds broke into flashes. Ezra firing from below. Romano's men shouting. Caleb screaming his daughter's name like a prayer. Olivia grabbing the yellow-taped music roll. Silas catching her sleeve. Fabric tearing. Dante reaching the loft stairs with impossible speed. Silas raised his gun at Olivia. Dante stepped between them. The shot cracked through the church. Dante jerked backward. Olivia screamed. He did not fall immediately. For one impossible moment he stayed, standing between her and the bullet, eyes locked on hers, as if even gravity required his permission. Then his knees hit the wooden floor. Olivia dropped beside him. Blood spread across his black shirt. "No, no, no," she breathed, hands pressing to the wound. "Dante, look at me." His face was pale, but his eyes found hers. "You're safe?" She made a sound between a sob and a laugh. "You arrogant, impossible man. You got shot and that's your question?" "Yes." She pressed harder. "Ezra." Gunfire continued below. But closer now came the brutal sounds of men being disarmed, bodies hitting pews, orders shouted. Silas tried to crawl toward the stairs, but Caleb appeared in front of him, gun shaking. "My daughter," Caleb said. Silas looked up, furious. "You weak little—" Caleb struck him across the face with the gun and dropped him cold. Then he collapsed to his knees, sobbing. Olivia barely saw it. All she saw was Dante, his blood under her hands, his breath shortening, his eyes trying to close. "Don't you dare," she said, his mouth curved faintly. "You give terrible orders. Stay awake." "I usually do." "Don't." At his name, his eyes opened again. There it was, the thing he had spent years hiding behind money, surveillance, violence, and silence. Love. Not clean love. Not easy love. Not safe love, but real enough to bleed. "I didn't know how to come to you," he whispered. Olivia's tears fell onto his shirt. "So, you bought everything around me instead." It was a poor strategy. She laughed through a sob. "Terrible. I know. You scared me. I know. You made me feel like my life wasn't mine." Pain crossed his face deeper than the bullet. "I know." She pressed her forehead to his. "But you also saved it." His hand lifted slowly, shaking, and touched the side of her face. "Your mother saved mine first." Olivia squeezed her eyes shut. Behind them, Ezra shouted that police were arriving. Mara's voice somehow came through someone's phone, furious and commanding ambulances to the church like she owned the city too. Caleb kept crying into his hands. Thunder rolled over St. Agnes. Dante's fingers slipped from Olivia's face. "No," she said sharply. "Stay with me." His eyes fluttered. "Dante, you do not get to watch me for 2 years, Ruin my life, save my life, terrify me, make me care about you, and then die in a church before I decide whether I forgive you." His eyes opened a fraction. "You care?" Olivia let out a broken breath. "You are bleeding on my mother's church floor, and that is what you heard?" His faint smile was barely there. "Yes." She pressed harder on the wound. "Then hear this too. If you live, you stop owning things around me. You stop deciding for me. You stop confusing control with love." His Chaza held hers. "And if I don't know how," he whispered, "then learn." The ambulance arrived 7 minutes later. Olivia rode with him. Nobody tried to stop her. Not police, not paramedics, not Ezra. Perhaps they all recognized the look on Dante's face when her hand left his for even a second. Perhaps they recognized the look on hers too. Mercy General was still recovering from the blackout when they brought Dante into surgery through the same trauma bay where he had first spoken her name. The glass had been boarded, the floors cleaned, the lights restored, but the night remained in every corner. Olivia tried to follow him into the operating room. A surgeon blocked her. "Olivia, you know you can't come in. I'm Steph. You're emotionally involved." She almost denied it. The words died. Dante, pale on the gurney, turned his head toward her. Their eyes met beneath the harsh surgical lights. For all his power, all his wealth, all his violence, he looked suddenly like the 19-year-old boy her mother had saved in a church basement. Olivia stepped close and took his hand. "You come back," she said. Dante's thumb moved weakly over her knuckles. "Bossy," he whispered. "Learn to like it." Then they wheeled him away. The next 6 hours hollowed Olivia out. She sat in the surgical waiting area wearing blood-stained borrowed clothes while Boston woke to news helicopters, police statements, and rumors of a Mafia war collapsing in real time. Silas Romano was arrested at St. Agnes, with enough evidence to bury half the city's corrupt infrastructure. The real ledger, hidden inside a yellow-taped music roll, contained names, accounts, recordings, and payment trails Evelyn Hart had preserved, with the patience of a woman who knew justice might take longer than her life. Caleb's daughter was found alive in a warehouse outside Revere, terrified but unharmed. Caleb turned himself in, carrying both guilt and relief like twin punishments. Mercy General's pediatric patients survived. By noon, rain had stopped. Mara arrived with clean clothes and coffee, sat beside Olivia, and said nothing for nearly 10 minutes. Then she said, "He has never brought anyone home." Olivia stared at the floor. "He didn't exactly invite me." "No, he's terrible at tenderness." Olivia let out a weak laugh. Mara looked toward the surgery doors. "When Evelyn was dying, she called me, asked if Dante was eating, asked if the house still felt empty." Olivia looked over. "She knew you too?" Mara smiled sadly. Evelyn Hart knew everyone worth knowing. Olivia closed her eyes. "I'm angry at him," she whispered. "Good. I'm grateful. That too. I don't know what to do with both." Mara patted her hand. "Then don't decide while wearing his blood." At 1:36 p.m., the surgeon came out. Olivia stood so quickly the room tilted. "He made it," the surgeon said. The sound that left Olivia was not a sob, exactly. It was something deeper, something dragged up from the place grief had been living for too long. "He's critical," the surgeon continued, "but stable. Stable." The word became a prayer. Dante woke 2 days later. Olivia was asleep in the chair beside his ICU bed, wearing clean jeans, an oversized sweater Mara had insisted on, and exhaustion like a bruise. Morning light spilled pale gold across the room. Machines hummed softly. The city beyond the window looked washed clean after rain. Dante opened his eyes and saw her first. For a long time, he did not move. He watched her sleep, the way he had once watched from shadows. But everything was different now. No cameras, no distance, no secrecy. Just a hospital room, a woman he had nearly died protecting, and the terrible knowledge that love without freedom was only another kind of cage. Olivia woke because his fingers brushed hers. Her eyes opened. For a second, neither spoke. Then she sat up sharply. "You're awake." "So are you." She laughed, then started crying, then looked angry about both. Dante tried to lift his hand. Pain stopped him. "Don't move," she said. He obeyed. The obedience startled them both. Olivia wiped her face. "That's new." His voice was rough. "I'm learning." She looked at him for a long moment. There were still questions between them. Wounds not made by bullets. Choices that would require more than one apology. He had surrounded her life without consent. He had kept secrets. He had turned protection into possession because possession was the only language power had taught him. But he had also bled on a church floor between her and death. He had saved children he did not know because she asked him to. He had carried her mother's promise like a blade against his own heart. Olivia reached into her pocket and removed the cassette tape from St. Agnes. "I listened to it," she said. Dante's expression changed. "What did she say?" Olivia looked down at the tape. "My mother said she was sorry she left me with secrets. She said the ledger mattered, but not more than my life. She said if I was hearing her voice, it meant the past had found me." Her voice trembled. "She said you were not a good man." Dante closed his eyes. Olivia continued, softer. "But she said you were not beyond becoming one." His throat moved. "She overestimated me." "Maybe." He opened his eyes. Olivia leaned closer. "Or maybe she saw the boy in the church basement before the world taught him to become a weapon." Dante looked away, and for the first time since Olivia had known him, he seemed unable to hide. "I don't know how to be that boy anymore," he said. "Then don't be him." Olivia took his hand carefully. "Be the man who tells the truth before it becomes a wound." His fingers closed around hers. "I sold your apartment building this morning," he said. Olivia blinked. "You what?" "Mara handled it. The new owner is a housing non-profit. Your lease remains protected. No cameras. No Marcellus security unless you request it." Olivia stared at him. "I also removed all surveillance connected to you," he continued. "Ezra will give you written confirmation. And the hospital debt paperwork is being transferred into your name as paid by the Evelyn Hart Memorial Fund, not me." She was silent. Dante looked at her, vulnerable in a way that seemed to physically hurt him. "I cannot undo what I did," he said. "I can only stop doing it." Olivia's eyes filled again. That was almost a healthy apology. His mouth curved faintly, then tightened with pain. "I'll practice." She held his hand between both of hers. Outside the ICU window, sunlight touched the wet roofs of Boston. For the first time in days, no alarms screamed. No gunfire cracked. No powerful men demanded debts from the dead. Only quiet. But quiet, Olivia was learning, could be its own kind of danger. Because in quiet, feelings became audible. Weeks passed before Dante left the hospital. Silas Romano's empire collapsed piece by piece. Judges resigned. Detectives were arrested. Charities were audited. The newspapers called Evelyn Hart a whistleblower, a hidden hero, a woman who preserved the truth at great personal risk. They printed a photograph of her from 20 years ago, smiling outside St. Agnes with a box of donated winter coats in her arms. Olivia kept that article folded beside the locket. Caleb Voss pled guilty to obstruction but cooperated fully. Olivia visited him once before his transfer. He cried when he apologized. She believed him. She did not forgive him yet. Both could be true. Dante's world shifted too. Some men mistook his injury for weakness. Ezra corrected them. Others mistook his restraint for softness. Dante corrected them himself, though never in ways Olivia asked about too closely. He did not become harmless. That would have been a lie. He was still Dante Marcellus. Still feared. Still powerful. still a man with darkness stitched into his history, but something in him changed shape, not erased, redirected. He stopped appearing unexpectedly. He called before sending a car. Then he stopped sending cars unless she asked. He did not come to her apartment until she invited him. And when he did, 3 months after the night at St. Agnes, he stood outside her repaired door holding no flowers, no gifts, no extravagant apology. Just a paper bag of takeout soup from a tiny restaurant her mother had loved. Olivia opened the door and stared at him. "Soup?" she asked. Mara said, arriving empty. Handed was rude. Mara is usually right. "I know." He looked almost nervous. The sight was so strange Olivia had to bite the inside of her cheek. He wore a black coat, of course. Men like Dante did not suddenly discover beige sweaters because they had emotional growth, but his shirt collar was open, his face a little less guarded, and the scar near his collarbone was just visible where the bullet had nearly taken him from her. Olivia stepped aside. "You can come in." He did. Her apartment was small, warm, imperfect. A lamp with a crooked shade, books stacked beside the couch, a thrift store table, Evelyn's lavender scarf folded over the back of a chair. No cameras, no hidden guards, no luxury silence. Dante looked around like he had entered sacred ground. Olivia watched him. "You've seen it before, not from inside." That answer settled between them. He placed the soup on the counter. For a while, they ate at her small kitchen table while rain whispered against the window. Not a storm this time. Just rain. Ordinary rain. Healing rain. Dante told her about the church basement. About Evelyn making him drink broth when he wanted to leave. About how she had slapped him when he tried to stand too soon. Olivia laughed so hard she cried. "My mother slapped you?" She said arrogance slows healing. She was right. Yes. Olivia told him about Evelyn singing off-key, burning toast, saving every birthday card, and dancing barefoot in the kitchen when hospital bills had not yet become their second language. Dante listened like every detail mattered, not as a collector, as a man being trusted. Later, they stood by the window, looking down at the wet street. A couple hurried beneath one umbrella. A bus hissed through puddles. Somewhere below, the neighbor's son stole a package, saw Olivia watching, panicked and put it back. Dante glanced at her. She raised an eyebrow. "Do not." I said nothing. "You thought something. I often do." She smiled despite herself. The silence changed. Dante turned toward her slowly. "I have no right to ask you for anything," he said. Olivia's heart began to beat harder. "That's true. I hurt you. Yes. I frightened you. Yes. I mistook proximity for protection and control for care." She looked at him. That sounded rehearsed. "Mara, of course." He almost smiled, then grew serious. "But I mean it." Olivia searched his face. There was no demand in him now. No command. No black SUV waiting below to swallow her life. Just a man powerful enough to terrify a city. Standing in her small apartment and trying to learn how not to hold love like a weapon. "What are you asking, Dante?" His eyes met hers. "One dinner," he said. "Somewhere public. Somewhere you choose. You arrive alone. You leave whenever you want. No guards inside unless you ask. No ownership, no debt. No promises you don't freely give." Olivia looked at him for a long time. Then she said, "That is a very specific dinner. I had to be talked out of renting the restaurant." She laughed. He watched the laugh move through her like he had once watched the almost smile in his penthouse. But this time, he did not look hungry. He looked grateful. Olivia stepped closer. "You understand something," she said softly. "If I say yes, it doesn't mean I'm yours." Dante's gaze dropped to her lips, then returned to her eyes. "No," he said. "It means I'm allowed to try to deserve being near you." Her chest tightened. That was dangerously good. "Mara again." Olivia laughed, and Dante's smile finally appeared. small and real and devastating. She touched the edge of his coat, not pulled, not surrendered, just touched. "One dinner," she said. His eyes softened. "One dinner, and I choose the place. Yes, and if I say no afterward?" His jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Then I accept no." She studied him. "Even if it hurts?" "Especially then." That was when Olivia kissed him. Not because everything was healed. Not because darkness had vanished. Not because love had become simple. She kissed him because he had finally stopped taking. Because he had finally learned to stand still and be chosen. Dante went absolutely motionless at first, as if the gentleness of it shocked him more than violence ever had. Then his hand lifted, stopped halfway, and waited. Olivia took his wrist and placed his palm against her waist. His breath broke. The kiss deepened slowly, rain moving down the glass beside them, city lights trembling outside, the past still present but no longer in command. When they parted, Dante rested his forehead lightly against hers. "I would have waited," he whispered. Olivia closed her eyes. "I know," and strangely she believed him. 1 year later, St. Agnes reopened, not as a church laundering money for monsters, not as a ruin where old violence waited under dust. It reopened as the Olivia Hart Community Clinic, a free after-hours medical center for patients who fell between insurance forms and survival. Olivia stood on the front steps beneath a clear autumn sky, wearing navy scrubs under a cream coat, watching volunteers carry boxes of supplies through the restored doors. A plaque beside the entrance bore her mother's name, Olivia Hart, for the woman who believed every life could still be saved. Dante stood at the edge of the crowd, not beside her, not claiming the moment, just present. Black suit, quiet eyes, a scar beneath his collar. Ezra nearby pretending not to watch every rooftop. Mara handing out coffee like a general commanding morale. Reporters shouted questions. Olivia ignored most of them. One asked, "Miss Hart, how does it feel knowing your mother helped expose one of the largest criminal networks in Boston history?" Olivia looked at the plaque. "It feels," she said, "like she was braver than anyone knew." Another reporter called, "And Mr. Marcellus, what role did he play in funding the clinic?" The crowd shifted. Cameras turned. Dante's expression closed on instinct. Olivia looked at him. For a moment, she saw the old reflex. Hide, control, protect from shadows. Then he looked back at her and let the choice be hers. Olivia faced the cameras. "He helped," she said, "but this clinic belongs to the people who need it." Dante's mouth curved faintly. "Good answer," his eyes said. After the ceremony, when the crowd thinned and sunlight warmed the old brick, Olivia went inside alone. The restored chapel had become a quiet waiting room. Stained glass cast soft colors across the floor. The old choir loft remained above, sealed now, but preserved. Near the front, where Dante had almost died, a small wooden bench sat beneath the window. Olivia sat there and held her mother's locket. For a while she listened. No gunfire, no alarms, no threats over intercoms, only distant laughter from volunteers, the roll of supply carts, the murmur of people arriving to be cared for. Dante entered quietly. He did not sit until she looked up and nodded. Progress, Olivia thought. He sat beside her. She would have liked this, Olivia said. Yes. She would have made everyone soup. Yes. She would have slapped you again. Dante considered. Likely. Olivia smiled. He looked at her, and after a year, his gaze still held danger. It probably always would, but now it also held restraint, reverence, and something that no longer frightened her because it no longer tried to cage her. "Are you happy?" he asked. Olivia looked around the clinic, at the light, at the plaque, at the life built from the wreckage of secrets. Then she looked at him. "I'm healing," she said. "That's better than happy." Dante nodded slowly. She took his hand. "And you?" His fingers closed around hers. "I'm learning," he said. Outside, Boston moved on. Sirens in the distance, traffic over wet streets, a city full of ghosts, debts, sins, and second chances. Inside St. Agnes, sunlight fell across the floor where blood had once been. Olivia leaned her head against Dante's shoulder, not because she needed protection, but because she chose closeness. And Dante Marcellus, the man who had once bought her debt in silence, who had watched from shadows because he did not know how to step into the light, sat perfectly still beside her, not owning, not guarding, just staying. For the first time in his life, that was enough. And for Olivia Hart, whose life had been shaped by debts she never owed and secrets she never asked to inherit, the quiet felt like a miracle. Not the kind that erased the past, the kind that proved the past did not get the final word.